Welcome to episode 4, and the reading for this week is chapter 4, when the mission of Jesus goes public. And he does have a mission. He's not a bloke who had a few nice ideas that somehow took off. The Bible portrays him with a specific purpose. And in this passage, he explains it by quoting 700-year-old words spoken by Isaiah the prophet that we find recorded in the Old Testament. Now, these words tell us something very important. Firstly, that Jesus' mission is long expected and comes with God's authority. And second, it tells us that his mission is to proclaim good news to the poor, liberty to captives, sight to the blind, freedom for the oppressed. And we'll see what that mission looks like as the gospel unfolds. So it'd be a good idea to keep these words in mind and see how they might connect with what Jesus says and does as we read through over the weeks. And it is a pretty amazing mission statement, but strangely, not everyone is happy about it. And Jesus will face opposition, both human and supernatural. And the first opposition that crops up is pretty serious, and we find it in verses 1 to 13. This is the famous wilderness temptation. Jesus spends 40 days alone prior to the beginning of his public ministry and is put into severe trial by the devil. Now, this is a rough guide, not a detailed exploration, so we can't unpack the complexities and nuances of the devil for a secular culture like ours. For now, let me give you just a couple of things to help you if you found that this is a bit of a bump in the road. If you find the idea of the devil tempting Jesus as hard to swallow, remember that for the Bible, for most people in history, and much of the world today, evil and personified evil isn't a daft idea. And if you watch the news regularly, well, frankly, it doesn't do a whole lot to undermine that belief. So why not read what Luke says with an open mind, on its own terms, and see if anything starts to add up. But secondly, you will need to lay aside 1,000 years of art and 100 years of horror movies and come at this with fresh eyes. Much of what we think about this subject actually isn't from the Bible, which is actually purposefully short on details. As C.S. Lewis famously said, there are two equal and opposite errors into which our race can fall about the devils. One is to disbelieve in their existence, the other is to believe and to feel an excessive and unhealthy interest in them. The Bible strikes a good balance. So the Gospels describe their existence and this unusual burst of activity during Jesus' ministry because he is a direct threat to them. But the Bible is really quite circumspect on the issue. It communicates evil's existence, it talks about the devil, but it believes too much in human responsibility to attribute everything bad to him. And it believes too much in a broken world to attribute every malady to evil. Remember, Luke is a GP, he's a doctor, and a man of science, as are many Christians today. And too much is the belief of the Bible in the power of God to tell us that we should cower in fear. So the message is beware, but trust God. So Jesus has two encounters with evil beings. The demons are basically afraid and Satan attacks him. Now, it might not seem a very dramatic attack, it doesn't have many special effects, but it is clever. He's basically trying to derail Jesus' mission. So he does that by, in verse 3, undermining his identity as the Son of God. In verses 5 and 6, he tries to reroute Jesus' sacrificial mission to change the world by saying, I'll give you the world at a price, you don't have to do that. And in verse 9, he has a go at Jesus' reliance on his Father. But Jesus wins and gets on with the mission, and that is good news. And finally for today, another concept that can be challenging to some 21st century presuppositions. There's quite a bit of that going on in this chapter, which is why we're only doing one today and we'll go a bit quicker in subsequent weeks. And that subject is miracles. Jesus demonstrates authority both over evil, that's the demons, and sickness, that's Peter's mother-in-law. Now, again, we don't have capacity on these videos to go deep, but a couple of quick points. First of all, if God is God, he really can do what he wants in his own universe. And secondly, miracles are often perceived as working contrary to the nature of reality. But the Bible has a different view. It says we live in a broken and malfunctioning world, and Jesus' mission is to set everything right, so that one day our world is the world we dream of. Well, what if miracles aren't an interruption to reality, but they are in fact from a future greater reality that is breaking into our history? They're glimpses and evidence of something bigger and better and more real. It's a bit like being on a train where you've been in a long tunnel and then for a few seconds you emerge into the sunshine before going back into another tunnel, and just for that moment everything is flooded with sunshine from a bigger world. That, the Bible suggests, is part of the purpose of miracles, to show us how things will be. So here are some questions that might help you as you read through this passage to explore a bit more deeply. Question 1. How does the Bible's view of good and evil strike you? Do you find it tricky or challenging, or does it resonate with your instincts about life and the world? How do you feel about Jesus' victory in chapter 4? Question 2. Why are the people in Nazareth so unhappy with him? Do the 2 compass points that we've had on previous weeks help explain this? And 3, as you read through, why not ask, what glimpses of God's future and God's Son do these miracles reveal? Thanks for being with us this week, and hope to see you again next Friday.